And we are back on the final segment of Talking Hogs Live. We're going to get down to a SEC breakdown, I believe.
Yes. So we're going to basically go over the games that happened on Saturday. And,
Alright.
and if we have time, we may throw in some top 25, but it doesn't look like we're going to have time, which is fine. And so...
You're good.
Oh, I thought you wanted me to wear the headphones.
No.
I was like, I don't need
I was
headphones.
needing to make sure I was good.
All right, so... Yeah, so we're not going to have time to go through the top 25 mainly because there were actually a couple of good SEC games. And so, like, for example, we've already talked about Arkansas, Colorado State because we're the Hog Show. Mississippi State manhandled Kansas State.
That was a surprise to me. I really thought that Kansas State would actually be able to at least be competitive in that game. I really thought that they would at least be able to hang in there for a while.
Yeah, I haven't heard much about Kansas State's potential this year. Is Snyder still the coach?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I mean, he's going to be there until, unfortunately. I mean, but here's the thing. When I say they manhandled them, Mississippi State had 538 yards of offense, of total yards. Kansas State had 213.
Right.
So...
I mean, we knew going in that Mississippi State had a pretty good defense.
Well, it doesn't help you when... Because Nick Fitzgerald looks like he didn't throw the ball very well. He was 11 for 27 for 154 yards, 2 TDs, and an interception. But their running back ran for 17 yards and 200. Like he ran 17 carries for 211 yards, his long of 52. So he still averaged 12.4 yards a carry. Nick Fitzgerald, the quarterback, ran 19 times for 159 yards. So they ran for 384 yards against what we thought was at least an to okay Kansas State team. So Mississippi State looks like we'll see once the SEC starts, obviously, and Nick Fitzgerald 11 to 27 isn't going to get it done in this division. Not when you've got LSU's defense, which looks really good. You've got Alabama, who is Alabama, super good, and then you've got A&M, which will lead into the next game we're going to talk about. Clemson A&M. And this had nothing to do with A&M as much as it did with Clemson. I put way too much stock in how good Clemson may or may not be this year. And they held on and won on the road, which tells you about that program. A&M gave them a game.
Absolutely, they did.
I mean, their quarterback...
Can we say now that we pretty much can assume that Jimbo is going to be another good one in the SEC now? I mean, I know it's not his... No, I know it's not his players. I know it's not really much of his team yet. He's just playing with someone's guys as we speak, but...
Jimbo's always been good, though.
I think he's going to be another problem in the SEC.
He's been good everywhere he's been. I mean, he had one down year at Florida State and then took this job, but he also lost a Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah.
I mean, say what you want about Jameis, but Jameis was built for whatever system he was running. And
right.
So Texas A&M is going to be a problem because now they have a legitimate, bona fide head coach. Not that Dan Mullen wasn't, but we had only seen Dan Mullen at Mississippi State. And Dan Mullen really set this program in the right direction. So Jimbo, having all the success he's had and the coordinator success he's had and being around when everyone knows who Jimbo Fisher is, this is going to hurt Texas. Because recruits are going to be like, dude, I go to Texas A&M, they almost beat Clemson. Texas can't beat Maryland.
Texas almost got beat by Tulsa.
Yes. So this is not like I'm just, but that's a problem because their recruiting is not. You can't be worse than A&M and win in recruiting because A&M's now in the SEC.
No, I'm not going to go there because I don't want to get off the topic of SEC. So go ahead.
All right. So yeah, Texas A&M's quarterback threw for 430 yards on that Clemson defense. And it looks like Clemson played two of their quarterbacks.
Yeah, they played both of them.
And the other guy, I mean, he was 5-9 for 93 yards. It doesn't say it long on here, so I don't really know. But, I mean, that's their big-time recruit that's sitting behind Kelly Bryant.
He'll be their starter next year.
Here's a good thing for Clemson, though. They're going to go to play they're going to get to go play in the ACC, where there's, like, not very many ranked teams. So they'll be fine. But you better believe Dabo's going to use this as, I don't know. Did this tell you more about Clemson or more about A&M?
Tells me more about A&M.
I agree. It told me more about A&M. It's like, oh, okay, they could be for real.
Because we already knew Clemson was good. We just didn't know how good. Now with A&M, we knew that they had potential to be good, but we had to see it.
Well, and A&M held them to 3.6 yards a carry rushing, so their defense looks improved, and so that's a big thing for A&M because A&M's always had a good offense. Mm-hmm. If they put a average to above average defense with that, and not that atrocity they've been having with Sumlin, they could be a problem.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to talk about all like the Missouri and Wyomings and all those, or like Auburn, Alabama State, Kentucky, Florida. You called it.
Yep, I did. I don't know why. I just told you, just had a weird feeling.
Well, so Kentucky's leading rusher had 175 yards.
Benny Snell is probably one of the most underrated running backs in the country. Just being honest with you.
But here's the thing that gives you hope for Florida. Their quarterback was at least better than they had in the last couple years.
This is true.
Frank Felipe or whatever his name. Felipe Franks. I knew that was backwards. I mean, Florida gave up 454 yards of offense, but they gave up 303 yards rushing.
Yeah.
So that's not a good sign for Dan Mullen.
But to be fair, he's kind of in the same situation where Chad Morris is in, because he had terrible players behind to come into.
Florida's defense has been good for like the past 6-7 years, and I'm not saying this is Dan Mullen's fault. I'm saying this is something Dan Mullen's going to have to fix.
All right.
Dan Mullen's good.
It's kind of the same situation that Arkansas's in, is because they have that loser mentality on defense. They're so used to blowing it that they're not in the headspace to think in a big game or in a close game situation where it's like, well, we can still win this. We can still win. They're so accustomed to just falling short. You know what I mean?
Right. So, Georgia, South Carolina.
It was close for a half.
And nothing really stood out to me too much looking at this box score, because I didn't get to see this game either, unfortunately.
I watched most of it. It got ugly in the second half.
But Georgia ran by committee.
Yeah, but that's what Georgia does. Because you think, I mean...
But they usually have a 1 and a 2. They have...
You think if they had Gurley and Marshall... Well, Marshall, wasn't that his name?
Oh, Marino?
I mean, no, it was Marshall whenever it was Gurley. Something Marshall...
I know who you're talking about, because before that they had no Sean Marino.
It was Marino and somebody else before.
Georgia's always had a 2 running back system, and they've always been 2 good ones.
Yep.
This year they have a guy with 9 carries, a guy with 12, a guy with 7, a guy with 11, a guy with 8.
Mm-hmm. I think eventually you're going to see them go away from that, because the 2 running back thing was kind of a Mark Richt thing, whereas Kirby Smart came from Alabama's version, where it's a 1. You might see a second running back, but you're not going to see him like a lot. It's going to be one that's like a big bell cow that's going to just run over you.
What Alabama would do is they would always stagger their running backs by classification, right? So you'd usually have like a junior or a senior, and then a freshman or a sophomore. Drake that plays at Miami, what's his first name? Kenyon Drake. Kenyon Drake's a great example. He got to the NFL and was only really kind of the guy for like a year. But because he played at Alabama, and scouts knew, it's like, okay, the reason he's not playing is because he was behind this guy.
Which is weird, but it's funny you say Kenyon Drake, because I kind of starting to get the feel, instead of being a big back type offense like at Georgia, like Alabama is, I'm kind of getting the feeling that Kirby Smart's imprint might have been part of what Alabama did too, because I know Kirby was a defensive guy, right?
Right.
But as far as like the offensive style that he wants for his programs that he's a part of, I mean, they did get Tua to come there. Tua's mobile. Not saying that was a Kirby thing. I'm just saying. because I'm just saying I just kind of see the similarities. They had Tua, they had a Kenyon Drake at Alabama. Now he goes to Georgia, and he has these guys like Holyfield and Swift, and he had another quarterback come in that was a mobile guy. I mean, I'm starting to think that he's kind of wanting those Kenyon Drake type players that are kind of taller running backs, but are like more like slender build,
Right.
speedy catch out of the back.
Le'Veon Bell type running backs.
Yeah.
Where you could still be an every down back, but you're not that Derek. You're not the Derek Henrys and the Trent Richardsons and the
Bingo.
I'm gonna run you over. Like they're more versatile.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not seeing Derrick Henry at Alabama running out of the backfield and catching passes.
Right.
I'm not saying he can't do it, but that's not it. Like Fournette,
that's not what he's good at.
Leonard Fournette's not that guy either. But
right.
you can have a guy like Kenyon Drake was a great example, and Le'Veon Bell and guys like that. And so I think Georgia pencil them in. I mean, unless
they're the Alabama of the East.
They're well coached. Kirby Smart has proven he can coach, and now people say when he gets his own players. Well, I've seen the defensive players he recruited at Alabama. Okay, so I've seen, and I've also seen him play Nick Saban and not get destroyed. Because what do we see with Nick Saban assistants? They get destroyed.
You know what's funny? And everybody says, "Oh, he's using somebody else's players." He's doing better with Mark Richt's players than Mark Richt did with Mark Richt's players.
I will never ever in my life say one bad thing about Mark Richt.
And that's no knock on Mark Richt. I'm just saying, and simply put,
I mean, he took Georgia to the next level in his first year. He got to the level that was the reason they fired Mark Richt. Mm-hmm. For all the talent and all the 10-win seasons, Georgia fans were like, at least once. I mean, Mark Richt won several SEC championships, but he just could not get him to that national spotlight game. He couldn't get him to the BCS game, and he couldn't get... And some of that is, listen, I mean, Mark Richt would lose some games that he probably should win. But I guarantee you the Georgia fans, I mean, Mark Richt really... I'm not saying he put Georgia on the map because they had Herschel Walker before that, but he built something great at Florida. So good for Kirby Smart getting a good situation. That's why I think I've always thought he would succeed more than Muschamp. Now, Muschamp walked into a dumpster fire at Florida, and he was not good. Let's just be honest. He walked into something not as bad in South Carolina because you had not only Steve Spurrier but Lou Holtz putting that program with two Hall of Fame coaches back to back. And so South Carolina is now a lot better. And South Carolina was always a middle of the SEC team. They've never been a terrible program. But they're kind of like the Arkansas under Nutt. They were right there in the middle, could beat you. Like, you weren't going to blow them out, and you had to play them tough because they mess around and beat you. Now remember, who went to South Carolina that was on defense that went to the NFL?
Jadeveon Clowney.
Yes.
Melvin Ingram.
Marcus Lattimore before he got hurt.
Stephon Gilmore.
Yes. So what does that tell you? They were recruiting their asses off and putting guys in the NFL. Now Muschamp, the thing with him is because they will run him out of South Carolina if he does what he did at Florida. Now, mind you, when he was at Florida, his defenses were phenomenal. It's his problems is he's a crazy person on the sideline. I have nothing against, and he's actually kind of funny too. If you ever listen to him, like he made a joke at a press conference, and I was like, it was really dry, witty, and funny. But we're getting into this age now where the screaming maniac head coach is kind of going away. Like Saban can get away with it because he's Saban, and because he never had a player come out and say I got abused by Nick Saban, and Nick Saban has the track record to be like he is Alabama at this point. Like you're gonna start his name is already being mentioned next to the great legendary Arkansas Bear Bryant, and Saban has earned that
I mean, he deserves it. I mean, it's not like he doesn't deserve it.
Like, yeah, people he gets all the players he wants. It's like, yeah, and you've seen Alabama still fall short.
And he, mind you, he's doing this in the best conference in the country.
Yes, the most talented conference in the country by far.
With everybody playing catch up.
Yes.
I mean, the fact that he stayed there tells you what you need to know about what Nick Saban is. He's adapted. A lot of these coaches, that's another thing. A lot of these coaches, especially the ones that have been doing things a certain way for a long time, they don't adapt. He went and got guys like Tua and his brother. Like, he's going to this more mobile quarterback, like Jalen Hurts. He's going to these more mobile quarterbacks because he figured out that's what the game is doing now. He's sticking with his great defense and big running backs, but he's changed his quarterback style.
Yeah. He's adapting, but still not selling his soul per se. Like, he's still. The reason why it took him so long to name Tua the starter is Tua is better than Jalen Hurts, but Tua does things that'll make a coach grab his hair. Like spinning around, throwing blindly, and hitting a guy in the end zone. Yeah, that looks cool. Da-na-na, until you realize what does a coach think when that happens. Whereas Jalen Hurts is not going to throw the game away for you.
Right.
And so Tua, it's a high risk, high reward, and Tua and low reward or medium reward, low no risk with Jalen Hurts. That's why Alex Smith has a job in the NFL because he's so low risk, almost to a fault. Not almost.
Jalen reminds me a lot of Alex Smith now that you say it.
Except Alex Smith is a way better player, but yes. And Alex Smith came. Well, I mean, actually, Alex Smith is so deceptively athletic; it's ridiculous. Like I see him get more first downs on the ground, and I'm like, I don't know how you did that. Right. Anyways, real quick, Vanderbilt shocked me, beat Nevada 41-10.
Yeah, I didn't expect it would be like that.
But I don't know anything about Nevada, and I just assumed they could throw the ball a lot. And
usually they have a pretty decent offense. But Vanderbilt usually has at least a decent defense nowadays. So that's not that surprising, other than the amount of points they put up.
Yeah, so North Texas is coming up. We got about 2 minutes till we go off air.
Well, we'll get into them on Friday.
Yeah, I'm trying to waste 2 minutes so we don't go off air and people hear blank space on the next show. Hey, what show's coming up after this?
Is it Beck's Work Week after this, I believe?
Yeah, Beck's Work Week. I just got a tweet about it. Yeah, Beck's Work Week is coming up after this, so listen to that.
Be sure to check out Beck's Work Week. That's the Hefe, the boss man of 12 Ounce Sports Radio show. So make sure you check him out. Make sure you also check us out tomorrow from 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock to 12 to 2.
No, 2 to 4 Eastern. 2 to 4 Eastern, 1 to 3 Central.
That's right. 2 to 4 Eastern, 1 to 3 Central time for the Rehab Sports guys. And we will be back on Wednesday with the replay of this show. And on Friday, it will be our next live show. And we will be previewing for the game on Saturday against North Texas. And we will be doing our picks and all of that good stuff. So Wednesdays will be our replay day now. Tuesdays and Thursdays for Rehab Sports guys. Wednesdays and Fridays live show. Or Mondays and Fridays for our live show on Talking Hogs Live. This has been The Villain with The Wizard. This is Talking Hogs Live, and we are out. Woo pig.
Woo pig. Oh, good job today.
Yep. There was a minute there where I was just like,